You know, guys, movies are having a tough time at the theater these days, right? Only a select few are doing well enough to really get any kind of financial profit. It does feel like Disney is practically ruling the roost in all this. Not to say that they're going to win everything. Dumbo was a financial failure this year, but everything else they've put out has done very well. The Lion King crossed $1 billion today. Aladdin's crossed $1 billion. Captain Marvel and Avengers Endgame all over $1 billion. I mean, they effectively made Spider-Man Far From Home, even though it's a Sony movie, and that crossed over $1 billion. So yes, Disney knows through its producers and its creators how to make content that grosses a lot of money. So then it's up to other films to kind of fill the gap and hope that they can get a little bit something on the side. And when I see an article like this, when it comes to It Chapter 2, It Chapter 2 director confirms epic runtime, I get excited. I get really excited. And the reason why I get excited is because it's a long movie. They're talking 2 hours and 45 minutes for the cut. That's insane to me. That's insane that movie, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and Avengers Endgame are all going to be pushing for a massive runtime, a very long runtime that is turning out to be a successful idea, right? Usually longer run times indicates fewer screenings, indicating less money. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood was Tarantino's biggest opening this last weekend. So what am I worried about here, right? What am I worried about? Why am I titling this video, Should You Boycott It Chapter 2, or should you just wait for home video? And there's a reason for that. And this is coming from an interview with Barbara Muschietti. She says, a movie is very different when you're writing the script and you're building a story compared to what the final product is. At the beginning, when you're writing and building the beats of the story, everything that you put in there seems very essential to your story. However, when you have the movie finally edited and it's 4 hours long, you realize that some of the events and some of the beats can easily be lifted, but the essence of the story remains intact. You cannot deliver a 4-hour movie because people will start to feel uncomfortable, no matter what they see. But we ended up having a movie that is 2 hours and 45 minutes, and the pacing is very good. Nobody who's seen the movie has any complaint. Now, right off the bat, you're probably thinking to yourself, like, really, what are you upset about? Why are you complaining about this? I'm not upset about a movie that's 2 hours and 45 minutes long, especially one that I am very excited to see. I mean, they're even re-releasing it to get people ready for this one with an 8-minute preview of It Chapter 2, I think at the very end of it, in order to get people hyped for this movie. They know how well it did in 2017 and they want to replicate that success. And I do believe that the movie is going to do that. When I say perhaps you should potentially boycott this movie in theaters, it has everything to do with that director's cut and everything to do with Warner Brothers. Now, I know I jumped a little ahead of myself when I talked about the director's cut, but this is what was brought up further in the article. It says, we will put out a director's cut because this time it definitely merits it. We have some amazing scenes that didn't make it into the movie. You have to make choices sometimes, and some things cannot be in the theatrical release, but are definitely worth people seeing them at a later date. It's kind of like, well, Zack Snyder, for example, if you look at, let's say, Batman v Superman came in at 2 hours and 30 minutes theatrically, and it was a mess of a movie. Narratively speaking, it was all over the place. The pacing was not good, and audiences responded with a negative audience score in the movie absolutely tanking after its first weekend. Then a few months later, they put out the extended edition or the ultimate edition with that extra 30 minutes of exposition during its first and second act. And people look at it and they go, oh, damn, that was a good movie. Third act, notwithstanding, still has its own set of problems. But the movie itself was a lot better with that extended cut. Zack Snyder's Watchmen, which you can watch the theatrical cut that comes in again at, I think, just under 3 hours at around 2 hours and 45 minutes, which is a competent cut in and of itself. Then you've got the director's cut, which adds a lot more footage, or even the ultimate cut, which runs over 4 hours long, and it is basically the definitive edition of the movie. Look at Peter Jackson, Lord of the Rings. Those movies had the extended cut that put on a walloping extra amount of content and time into these films, but they're considered the definitive edit. They're considered the definitive cut. And when I talk about the possibility of boycotting movies like it in the theater, it is because I think that people, if they are willing to watch it at home, they're willing to watch it in the theater. People want to go see the definitive cut when they go to the movies. I actually am losing interest in seeing it when it comes out because I know that I'll be able to see a much more complete version of the film later on at home. And the first time I experience a movie like this, perhaps I want to see it in that context in order to fully get everything that Muschietti was putting out there, to get a full idea of what the story is. Now, am I going to boycott this movie? No, I'm not. I'm merely posing a hypothetical question here. Should we, as moviegoers who want to see the full cuts of these films, not the director's cut on home video where they can charge you a premium for that extra little bit of content because you know that they will, because they've done this kind of stuff in the past, should we start really voting with our wallets and not going after these projects when they come to theaters like this? I mean, look at The Hateful Eight. The Hateful Eight was like a 3-hour plus movie. It did okay in theaters. Netflix has the movie now, and Tarantino cut it into a 4-part miniseries, giving us a lot more footage and a lot more context in his true vision of the movie. And many have said that it is the definitive version of that film. We can get a better concept for these films as they hit home theater. It just annoys me that studios don't give people enough credit to sit down and actually watch this as it comes out. Now, I get that people being able to set aside 4 hours is going to be very difficult to do in any situation. Our lives are busy. We have things and obligations and responsibility. I get that, but I still think they should do it. They should still release it. If it's one screen, look, everything nowadays is digital. So what you do is you run you run It Chapter 2, the theatrical cut during the daytime. You do the final show at the 4-hour run, and people who want to sit through it can sit through it. Give people the opportunity to spend the money to see something the way that it was originally put together, not cut for television. Because that's kind of what it feels like now. When we hear about these director's cuts that come out, it does feel like these studios are now editing for television, right? It does. It really feels like, because certain elements are missing. Plot points don't go anywhere. Certain things get cut. And we as an audience feel cheapened as a result of this. So this is just more of a hypothetical, something for you to think about as you get ready to watch this movie. Do you think ultimately that there should be multiple, maybe the theatrical, the shorter runtime during the day, and an extended, more hardcore version for the last show? Should they just release the full 4 hours? Would you sit through it? Do you think other people would sit through it? Or are you okay watching one version in the theater and then paying for a much longer, more complete version at home? Or are you just going to skip the theater and wait for the longer version at home? And it's not that I'm against seeing, if it's a better cut, if it's cut down, that's fine. That's okay with me. If it's a better cut when it's cut down, if it's cut down for good reason. Every movie has deleted scenes, like the new one from Endgame where everyone's kneeling at the end of that movie. I thought that scene was terrible. It was poorly pacing. It was poorly paced. It would have killed the pacing of that scene. Also, the impact of that scene. So it's okay to cut it and leave it to the DVD. I get that, and that's absolutely fine. But what I mean here is when they come out ahead of time and they say, we have this cut. Why are you telling me that I can get the steak in theaters, but the filet mignon at home? Why would I spend the money on the steak when I can just wait a couple extra months and get the filet mignon? You know what I mean? Like, I think we're smart enough as moviegoers to experience a film that's a little bit longer. We've already seen the success of it this year. The highest grossing film of all time is 3 hours and 58 seconds. So, people can sit there and people can do it. But when it comes to Warner Brothers and how they handle this kind of thing, like Justice League with a hard 2-hour cut, so they could fill in more screens, more runtimes during the day to try to bilk more money out of people with a completely ludicrous cut together of that film. That's why people have been demanding the Snyder cut. At least in this case, no one's going to be demanding the Muschietti cut. It's going to be coming, which is good. But it just makes me really ask that question. Should we boycott It Chapter 2 because a better version's on the horizon? Tell me what you think. I really want to hear it. Please thumbs up the video. Let's try to get to 200 likes. I think we're doing pretty good on that one here. It's really helping the channel grow when you guys like and comment. So if you want to support it, that's a good way. You can subscribe. That's another good way. And I really am looking forward to what you guys have to say about this. I want to know that I'm not crazy. Maybe I am. You tell me. Have yourself a great day, guys, and peace out.